we are live. I'm gonna wait for some people to get on. Hi everyone. So I am so excited to have one of the best, if not the best, florist in New York City. He is the one who does all those amazing art installations all over New York City, in the garbage cans, in the telephone booths. So we're gonna wait for him to come on. And here he is. Are we on? Hi, Louis.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Happy.
I'm just going to turn our volume up a little bit.
Okay.
Just switch this. I'm really far away from the. Yeah, just put the volume up. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. How do you hear me? Good.
I can hear you. Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on with me. Yeah. I'm really excited. I've got all my flowers. I've got everything.
Okay.
Can you just bring me down a little bit? So now that you're on, you can't see anything that I have here. So just because of the way that the camera is. So I'm just going to bring this down a little bit further. A little bit further. Perfect. That's it. Okay. So I've got my, do you think that I have enough kale?
Yes, you have tons. I just have this much. Where did you get all that kale?
Whole Foods.
I did too. I went yesterday and they had the worst like wilty bunches. So then I went to Fairway this morning and got some more, but yours is looking great.
Oh, good.
And your tulip, where'd you get your tulips?
On 28th Street.
Well, that's amazing because mine are from Whole Foods because I went to the grocery store and they don't look that good. So you're going to definitely be the winner today.
Well, you know, I'm going live with Louis Miller. I had to get the best of the best.
And you got the right color. So I went to Whole Foods and I know I said pinks and purples, but they didn't have any. So I ended up with like oranges and kind of some pinks, but it'll work.
Okay.
So, I mean, the idea is to like, you know, to design with what you can get your hands on at a bodega, at a grocery store. You know, my philosophy is that we should all live with flowers on a regular basis. And I don't want the inaccessibility of like high-end flower shop flowers to stop anybody because, especially in New York, but even around the country, anywhere there's a Whole Foods, a Trader Joe's, a bodega, even a Costco. You know, this time of year, you can buy beautiful tulips and they're going to go, you know, throughout April, probably into May. So, and I find tulips to be the best of the grocery store bodega flowers. So they're the most reliable. You're going to get the longest life out of them. And they're super easy to arrange and they're just beautiful and old fashioned and, you know, the harbingers of spring. So they're my go-to for like, you know, Monday through Friday flowers.
Well, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of tulips, but the ones that I got in the Flower Flash box,
yeah.
Those, I love the way that they started like turning into all crazy shapes and they got like really funky looking. I love those.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that's what's great about tulips. They're one of the few spring flowers that continue to grow. So after you cut them and put them in the water, by day 2, day 3, day 5, it's a completely different arrangement. And I'm glad you mentioned the Flower Flash box because tulips, you know, tulips are a classic flower. In the box, when I go to the flower market or I choose them for the Flower Flash box, I really try to buy something that's just not the average, like, egg on a stick tulip, which is what I'm working with today. But I like to, if I can get them, that they're doubled or they're ruffled or they have a fringed edge or they're the parrot tulip, then they really have this amazing quality. They open up, they look very painterly. And this sounds strange, but they die beautifully. Like their death process is kind of as romantic as their like reemergence and their, you know, they're the first of their life.
I know. And when you put it like that, you're definitely going to like them even more. I mean, they're still looking beautiful. I'm going to show them afterwards how like they've just come into like a whole nother situation. They look amazing.
Yeah. And you know, the thing about tulips are, it's like if you're one of those people that are if you're a control freak, and I go both ways. There's my times when I want to be wild and romantic, and there's other times when I leave when if life is crazy, then I need my flower arrangements to be extremely refined. Even if they grow, and I'll show you this, like even if they grow, you can arrange them in such a way that as they continue to grow over a couple of days, they will maintain their shape. Because some people just don't like that, you know, that sort of like Medusa quality, which is kind of what they do. But you can also, you know, you can do it in such a way that they grow very consistently and they stay very refined, you know, very tailored. So, you know, just a couple of tricks.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually did that because I used them in one of the mint julep cups next to my bed, and they got all crazy looking in there. So I just picked them up, snipped them, used a little bit of floral tape, and like contained them.
Contain them, exactly.
Yeah.
Bundle them tight and just let them grow as a group and not, you know, a la carte.
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, so how many tulips did you get there? It looks like you got at least 50, right? Maybe more like 100.
I got a lot because I was like, you know what? It's so hard. I'm on the Upper East Side. For me to go down there, it's like it's not the easiest.
Make it worth your while.
Exactly. So, and then I'm gonna do exactly what you said to do and give little ones away. I have like some less expensive little vases, and I'm gonna give them to people.
Yeah, awesome. That's the best thing to do. It makes people so happy, especially when it's this cold and gray outside.
I know.
Yeah. So, okay, so I've started cleaning my tulips, but I've left one bundle here. So these literally, I got these yesterday at Whole Foods. I have not done anything out of them. When I brought them home, I'm gonna give people tips. Like if you're getting grocery store flowers, you're gonna grab them from the bodega or the grocery store, and they're gonna be in buckets of water. By the time you put them in your cart, you check out, you put them in the bag, you go home. What's going to have happened is that these stems will have sealed off. So it's really important, even if you're not ready to arrange with them yet, is to cut off about 1/2 of an inch. You can leave them in their package just like this. Cut off 1/2 inch and immediately plunge them in just room temperature water until you're ready to arrange with them. Tulips are, like I got mine, like these are still pretty tight. You can see they're quite small. These are a little bit more open. Sometimes it's easy, and yours look like they're starting to develop really nicely. Sometimes it's easier when they're a little bit more open to arrange with them, because if they're too tight, you don't really get a sense of the volume. So you might want to put them in water and let them develop, or just hydrate for 24 hours before you do anything with them. But then when it's time to clean them, it's obviously take them out like that. Take your plastic wrapper off. Take the rubber bands off, and then cleaning is very easy. And it's easy, just like it's a little bit time consuming to do it right, but you just want to lay them all out and clean them all at once. And you're going to have a stem like this, and it's going to have a lot of leaves still on it, which is good because they act as kind of packing material. But then you're just going to take your fingers and you're just going to pull this off like that. Now I like to take most of the leaves off. I just leave the top leaf on, and the reason being is that these leaves actually are really nice and plump, and they're not damaged, and they look okay. In a day or two, the flower is going to look really fabulous. This leaf is going to turn really kind of yellow and chalky, and it flops over, and I just think it's kind of an ugly foliage. So I try to not keep too much of the tulip leaves on, but that's also why we're going to get the kale and add our own foliage just for, shits and giggles and kind of to make it a little bit more fun. So when you're done, you're going to have something that looks like this, just a single stem with a little leaf on the top, very clean, and then just, set them off to the side. So it's easy.
So is there like a time limit as to how long the tulips can be out of the water while you're like thinking of what you want to do?
No, don't worry about it, because if they've been drinking in water like that for a couple of hours, they're nice and plump and hydrated. And I mean, it's not like you're doing in the blazing sun in 100 degrees. So it's going to be okay. They can be out for 20, 30 minutes. And then as we arrange them, or once we arrange them, we'll give them a fresh cut, and that will rejuvenate them again.
Okay.
So The interesting things with tulips is that what you know, like you have all those tulips and they look so incredible, but the problem is that once you take the foliage off, it goes from like this much to about this much. So this right here, now granted, these are grocery store flowers. These are not Holland grown. This is 25 stems already. With their leaves on, it would have been twice as much. Yeah. But they're still going to grow and have a lot of developing in the head. So don't be alarmed when your big pile of tulips, you know, shrinks down to about half the size. And you can leave, you know, sometimes you can leave a tulip like that, a leaf like that on, because it's just nice to have that, a little bit of that spear. It just kind of feels very springish. And it also kind of gives it a little bit more volume. So, yeah, I'm going to leave that on. Now, when I'm buying flowers, so like I got these at the grocery store, you got yours at the market, and yours are like, how many varieties did you get? Did you get 2 or 3?
I got 2. I got the fringed ones. What's the name of these?
I don't know the exact variety because there's so many, but it is a fringed, it's a fringed tulip.
I got the fringed and I got the classic.
Yeah, great. So generally speaking, when I'm doing like single type of flower arrangements, whether it's tulips or roses or, you know, dahlias, anything like that, you know, I like to keep it monochromatic somewhat, but then I think just to keep it interesting, mix 2 or 3 varieties. So like mine here, like this one I'm cleaning here it's got a little bit of pink and yellow on it, but then if you look at the very base, it has that little bit of plum. So in that one flower, you could pull in more plum, you could pull in more yellow, you could pull in more pink. So I chose that one. I chose this one here, which has a little bit more yellow, and then this one here, which looks very similar, which is more of an orange. So it's like, and I think just as a mass, it just makes it a little bit more interesting to have that slight nuance in color as opposed to, oh, that is so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you could mix this with the white then.
You could, that would be beautiful with the white. You could mix that with a white. You could mix that with another pink. Exactly. So I think in general, like people ask, like, how do you know, you know, how do I pick colors or pick out a color palette? I think the most fun way of doing it is to actually look at the flower itself. And if you look deep, you know, the flowers that open up, sometimes they'll have a little bit of yellow in the center. So then you could pull out that yellow. Sometimes petals will go a little pink or they'll go a little burgundy at the base, so you could pull out that. So look, you know, one flower, it's not like it's been spray painted for the most part, even though that's a whole other topic. Those are very popular nowadays. But like a natural flower has a lot of nuance and color, and you can really extract your whole color scheme from the individual bloom that way.
Yeah, it's like putting an outfit together.
100%, or decorating a room. Like you can take you know, you have your primary color, you'll have your secondary color, and then you'll pick like the accent color, which will be the tiniest little piece, and that's just what makes the whole thing kind of pop and come to life. Also, if anybody's out there watching this, like this is so much fun to do with kids. Like I think anytime you can get kids involved in flowers, and especially city kids, get them to touch this stuff, get them to, you know, clean the flowers. You know, they may not like eating their kale. I mean, I don't really like eating kale, so it's more fun to arrange with it, and it's just can be a fun after school project. But also, you know, with like Mother's Day coming up, like kids can do this. These are projects, or May Day is even fun. As a kid, we used to do these arrangements for May 1st and put them on people's door and, you know, knock on the door and then run away.
Oh, so, that's cute. I know my kids are going to be so excited that all this kale is going to be going into vases and not dinner tonight.
But I think you actually have enough for both.
Probably.
Okay, so my tulips are mostly cleaned here. Now, while I don't want to get too far ahead of you because you've got a lot more flowers than I do. But you're going to need, like, what are you arranging yours in? Are you doing a julep cup?
So I have the classic cup, and then I have this one that I thought would be fun to kind of figure out. Like these are really tiny. Are these too small to do tulips in?
No, but you know that like just a tip, if you're gonna do something like tulips and that, like if you don't have floral tape, which sometimes is hard to get, or even Scott, like the water can make it fall apart. You know what works really well is if you took a small handful, like even 7 or 8 tulips, really tight like that, then you get those little plastic like ponytail rubber bands. They come in clear or different colors, but a lot of times even in clear, if you use a clear glass. You can put that on the base of it. Then you can chop these suckers really low and it's not going to topple out and they'll still continue to grow and stay uniform because it's just a little difficult sometimes when they're that small that you don't get that much stem length. But so you'll need to fasten it with something. It's something like a twisty tie could, like the wire could cut the stem, but a rubber band or a ponytail rubber band works well for that.
So I've got this vintage vase that kind of has not too big of a top. I've got all different ones. So yeah, I just thought this was interesting because I'm like, I have never seen tulips in something so small. So I would love to get a tip on how to actually put it together.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got, you know, like, I obviously keep a lot of vases around, but you know, but then it's funny, I go home and I don't have anything. So good old drinking glasses, like this is not, I'm going to probably make it out of this because it's like a nice size. It might be a little bit taller than your gold vase, but you know, it's pretty, and it's, by the time it's masked with flowers, it's, you know, there's no telling that it's a drinking glass. It can be a vase. Julep cups. I mean, even candle holders work. And then when you're really in a pinch, like, you know, desperate, or you're going to give it away, good old soup can. A la
That's great if you're going to give it away.
Flash, you know, cheapo vessel. So then, yeah, you've got, you've got your, and then we'll have to do a little kale cleanup. So then what I also encourage people to do, and I mean, I love, like, even in my events and my parties and stuff, we use a lot of fruit, and we use a lot of, you know, farmer market finds, vegetables, stuff that looks kind of more interesting and heirloomy, along with flowers, even bowls of nuts and stuff. So, you know, don't feel like you have to stay confined to the floral department. You know, go to the produce department and see what you can find. Sometimes even, you know, finding some beautiful plum-colored tulips and a bowl of figs, and then, you know, some purple cabbage leaf. You've got enough stuff to make a really nice little still life. So this is kind of my favorite cabbage of the season, just playing around with what I can find in the produce. This is that, I have the tag here somewhere, maybe I lost it, but this is just, you know, basic curly kale, and it comes, some of it, like yesterday, was really wilty, so I just got it and I had to give it a fresh cut and put it in water so it drinks up just like a flower. But you're gonna have kind of a ratchet looking stem like that. So what you need to do is take a floral knife or a paring knife and just kind of clean this whole thing up.
Okay.
And I just take the edge and just peel it. So I have, just like the flowers, I have a nice clean stem. I've removed all the like really wilty busted parts, so this is still nice and firm. And then if you take that and you put it back in water, let it drink for a while, it's gonna be easy to work with. Another thing that's fun.
Yeah, it's actually so pretty.
It's pretty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like that leaf, and look at the color of that stem with that purple tulip. I think it looks.
I know it actually looks really good together.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and then another thing that's fun, so like since Easter's around the corner, and if you're working, if you're doing stuff with your kids, like cabbage is impossible to work with, but this is collard greens. So same thing. It has such this kind of classical, you know, Beatrix Potter, Peter Rabbit kind of look to it. So you can take greens like this, and if you did this with yellow daffodils or white tulips and put them in, you know, even mason jars or little white ceramic pots down the center of the table for Easter, it's so pretty. Or the other thing you can do is even line, like a lot of times you'll go up into your cupboard and you'll have like cheap glass cylinders from other flower arrangements. You can take a leaf like this and you just cut the stem off, and you would just wrap it, you know, inside your cylinder, and then you can put your flowers.
That is such a good idea.
Flowers around. So it's just a fun way to bring this kind of, you know, very, I don't know, it almost reminds me of like a Caravaggio. It has this very kind of muscular, like old world, you know, it's, I don't know, I like this leaf. It's kind of fun. And it's really, it's tough. Like, I don't know how people eat this stuff, but this is like a really tough leaf. So play with this for Easter. But yeah, today I'm not going to put that in with my tulips now. I just got that because it looked like fun. Another thing to have on hand when you're, I'm just going to talk a little bit while you're cleaning your kale. When you're, if you have your tulips, you've got your produce. Most people don't keep flower food in their house. I mean, you can, if you're really like flowers are going to become a part of your life, you know, go on to Amazon.com, buy a box of like the little flower food packets just to have it. But if you don't have it, you can take 7-Up or Sprite, lemon lime soda that's not done. Perfect. Yep, you've got it. And you got your vodka. Excellent. So the lemon lime soda has citric acid and it has sugar, which doing like half and half, it acts as a flower food. It's the same ingredients as that powdery flower food. And then a little bit of a dash of the vodka, it just acts like a disinfectant. So it doesn't need much, but it's like, you know, bleach also works. Sometimes it's easy just to get a little heavy handed with the bleach, and bleach stinks, and it could also break down your flowers quickly if you added too much. Whereas a bit of vodka just acts as an antiseptic and will help to kind of kill the bacteria.
Yeah, and I've used that flower food before, but when I used the vodka and the 7-Up, I got none of that like funky water, which was amazing.
Well, you don't get the funky water, and the stuff with the flower food too is, it's like if you add too much flower food to your vase, it actually acts like speed, and it can take the flowers and it can just make them open up and just blow out way too fast. So I think it's a little 7-Up, and at the end of the day, I'm a firm advocate of just a clean container with just clean water, and most importantly, like especially with tulips, and also this also applies to hyacinths and anemones. The flowers that grow, because they grow, they're heavy drinkers. So you really need to make sure every morning you take it to the kitchen and you just top everything up with water, especially if you're putting it in a julep cup or something that you can't see the water level, because it's like anything else, out of sight, out of mind. You'll completely forget about it. And then you'll walk past it one day and your flowers are completely dead. It's because they're bone dry. So always keep them watered. So I've got my water, I've got my vodka. Probably too much vodka. I mean,
were you like as a kid always like obsessed with fantasy and fairy tales and all that?
No, I was just obsessed with beauty. You know, it's like, and the idea of, you know, gardens and plants and flowers. And there was a certain amount of fantasy. You know, like my fantasy of choice was the Wizard of Oz books. Like I never even saw the movie until I was probably 15. But I read the books, and I don't know if you know this, but there's about 30 of them, and they're incredible. And it was like my ultimate, like, and to this day, reading really descriptive, magical places to me is so much more inspiring and creative, you know, inspires me creatively than just like, say, watching a film where somebody else has already figured out the visuals. So yeah, I mean, you know, I grew up in Central California, so, you know, there was not a lot of beauty there because it's kind of, you know, a farmland community, but everything grew, and we managed to have amazing gardens. So that tended to be my kind of my escape from the reality of Modesto. And that's just how it started. So yeah.
Because when you talk about like you just are so creative, and all of those installations, the flower flashes you did, like, I mean, who can make a garbage can in the city that like brings joy to everybody? You have to have a real creative and like a mind that's just not the norm, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, thank you. I think it's just kind of my, it's also like my innate tendency to love contrast. So kind of any situation you drop me in, whatever's happening, I'll probably tend to want to go the opposite direction. So that ends up making for some hopefully beautiful, but slightly, you know, aesthetically moments. that work out. So yeah, like, you know, if there's something beautiful and expensive, then, you know, what's the opposite of that? Like, I'm always trying to like kind of pair the opposite. So, you know, which is what we're doing today. We're working with cabbage and kale and, you know, Dutch tulips. So it's like anything. It's like clothes, interiors, you know, high, low. If everything is expensive, it just looks cheap, you know, and if everything's, you know, I think you can have more success working, you know, working with inexpensive elements and beautiful color combinations than just by going out and just buying sort of like whatever is fashionable, but not having any like real sense of what to do with it. So
Totally.
yeah, I like that juxtaposition. And, you know, and like even with this, going back to this, like I like the frailty of the tulips, but then there is something that's kind of muscular about this cabbage. So it's like you've got the masculine and the feminine kind of working together on it.
I love it.
All right, so
all right, let's get started. I have a lot of tulips cleaned.
So I think now tulips are really easy because depending on your personality, if you want to just take a handful, give them a fresh cut, drop them in a vase, bada bing, you're done. But I think it's easier. What I like to do on these, and I have gigantic hands, so I can do it. I'll do them in my hands. But you can also lay them out on the table and just line all the heads up like that. I'm going to just show you how to do that, and then I'm going to actually pick it up and do it. So basically what I want to do is I want to get everything, kind of all the stems going in the same direction, and just start by layering one stem at a time my tulips. So I have a nice, you know, they're pretty even. You still want a little up and down. It does, but I'm not going for a lot of movement right now because the tulips are going to grow and they're going to do that naturally. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to I've got 30 here, so I'm going to start with about 25 of them.
Okay.
I'm going to leave like 5 to fill in.
I'm going to do all pink right now, and then I'll do an all purple one.
Yeah.
And then a mix of the two.
Exactly. And also, like when you're doing flowers at home, it's like you may want to, like I love companion arrangements. So if you have, a bigger container, say like this, and then you have I don't really have a small one, but say a smaller one by it, you can do an all pink mass and do an all purple mass by it, and then, style the two side by side with a candle holder and books and stuff on your coffee table. Like it doesn't have to be one arrangement. A lot of times it's nice to do pairings.
I love that.
So then I'm just, so it's starting full in my hand. Like I said, I've
Use this one.
got really big hands, so you could just lay this on the table. But I'll stop right there. So now everything is, all the tulips, nothing feels like they're crisscrossing, and it's just kind of a nice bundle. And then I'll just take it like this. Now, the trick is I want to kind of gauge where my vessel is. So I want these to be low. So then you need to kind of figure out, like, this will be my spot to cut. So I'm going to hold my hand there. And you can, what's nice about tulips, if you don't want to do a knife and you just have a good pair of kitchen scissors, they're soft enough stems, you can just do a nice cut. So I'm going to cut this right here. Now, you can go at a 45-degree angle. If you don't, it's not the end of the world. And then I actually filled this too full. I'm going to drop this in. And before I let it go, see, already that's too tall. And here's why. Because if I drop these, now I need like 10 to 20 more tulips to fill it up. So I need to crop this even lower. So now I'm going to take it out.
This has been a mistake. This is something that happens to me all the time when I'm doing arrangements at home.
Yeah.
Is that I either overcut or all of my, like, let's say I do roses, they're all at different sizes. I wind up cutting again. And it's like.
Yeah. So always err on the long side because you can always go back and cut. But see, now just by trimming that down, now it's a very full arrangement. They're in there very secure. I can now take them and pull them a little bit up and down if I want to. But this by itself, like this looks, it looks tidy. These are going to grow nice and uniform, and they're not flopping all over the place. And it's full. And I still have another there that I probably won't even need for this container. So I think it's really important to make sure that you get the proportions right. Start tall and then just continue to cut lower and lower. So now that face, you're gonna have, because of that style, it's gonna look weird if you do this kind of tight thing with this. So in that, I would definitely leave that much more carefree. Leave the stems longer, let it do its thing, and then you can add in your cabbage or kale. You'll probably want to fill it all the way to the top with water because your cabbage stems may not be that long. But definitely in a vase like that, add the vodka.
And how about for me too?
Yeah.
It's just so early. I'm like, oh my gosh, if this was like 5 o'clock, forget about it. I would be like martinis flowing. Okay.
Yeah.
About that?
I would add more. No, see, with the 7-Up, you can go a half to even a third full of with 7-Up. So if you're 2/3 water, it'd be 1/3 7-Up. So keep pouring.
Okay.
So if you're gonna do this a lot, you're gonna going to Costco and buying 7-Up or buying generic soda and buying cheap vodka for that.
Yeah, I know. I'm using Ciroc right now. This is P. Diddy's vodka. He's gonna be like,
yeah,
the flowers are gonna be like.
They're gonna be doing all kinds of things in about 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So for people are asking how much vodka and how much 7-Up to put in for like maybe smaller arrangements.
For 7-Up, it's like you'll be 2/3 water and 1/3 7-Up, and then vodka, a splash. Like, I mean, what is the splash? 2 tablespoons maybe. Obviously it depends on the size of your vase, but don't waste your vodka. It's more of,
So I didn't cut too much. Let me move this so that this. So do you think I should add more tulips, or you think this is good?
He's frozen.
Oh, we froze. Okay, so. Oh no, we lost him. Okay, so he'll come back on. But I've got this together. I feel like it needs more tulips. That is so strange. I don't know what is going on. Technical difficulties all the time. Oh, there he is. Great. Are you back?
hi,
Okay, so
I'm back.
Okay, good.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, this is, yeah, you need more tulips. I saw that. Keep adding tulips.
Okay.
But I'm just gonna now that I had that perfect dome of kale, or the tulips, I'm gonna start stabbing my kale leaves in, and then I'm gonna mess it up a little bit, and then it's gonna get a little bit more organic and fun. So what I'm doing with the kale is I'm kind of working my way around the outside edge, and it can almost kind of like collar, like think of like this is like a fluffy Elizabethan collar.
Oh my God, I love that.
So I'm getting the really nice pieces, and then I'm just going to go really quite uniform, and I'm picking up my tulips and then just spearing this in. I don't like that piece. Let me get a smaller piece.
Yes, tulips are in season right now. This is the time for tulips, right?
This is their time. They're gonna go, they're gonna go really through April, and then after that we'll be into peony season, and tulips will be forgotten about. Once we get into peonies, nobody thinks about tulips anymore. So then I
know those are my favorite.
Yeah, so now I've added my kale and it's kind of collaring it, but you see in the process of doing that, now my arrangement's gotten a little bit more freeform, which is personally I like better. Now I'm going to go back in and I can just fill in with these few extras that I have. And I can now have a few higher and lower and have a little bit more movement. And because my stems are clean, these kind of just slide in really nicely, very easily. And then it's just important to, like, you know, step back, kind of squint, work on your shape. I think the moral of the story is like, you know, I always encourage people to buy flowers for themselves, like, but it takes a lot more than you think. So if you think you're going to get away with 10 stems of tulips, probably not, unless you're going to make something really small. Like that right there, it's not that big of an arrangement, but it's already 30 tulips. You know, granted, these are open up in a couple of days. This is going to really look like something. Right now, they're still quite small.
So, like, because of the tight neck of this, like, I can't fit any more tulips in here.
I know, that's the problem with that kind of flare. It's not that it's a problem, but you know, do you have any room for your cabbage? But see, this also might be, this is kind of thing like, what I would do with a vase like that is leave that as is, because those tulips are going to now flop over and do really beautiful things. But then I would take that julep cup and make a companion arrangement to set by it. So now you could do a much more tailored one, like do something like pull your cabbage in there. So then you sort of have this like kind of, you know, lower, more compact one with the cabbage, the kale, and then you have this kind of taller, more elegant freeform one, and they work nicely together.
I think I have a very heavy pour for the vodka for these.
That's okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to use my purple ones because I'm dying to see those with the cabbage. What is your favorite flower?
Kind of varies by the time of year, but I really love the black and white anemone.
I saw those. So are those going to be part of the Flower Flash boxes?
Yeah, we're doing the box. I think it's for sale right now. It's just primarily the black and white anemone.
Oh, great.
I love that because I try to use as many as I can each season. Talk about that kind of juxtaposition, like they're light and dark and they're old fashioned and modern and happy and a little moody all at the same time.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it's like I really have my taste goes really for very old, you know, kind of old fashioned flowers. So tulips, anemones, you know, really beautiful, fragrant garden roses. Peonies, obviously, dahlias, but then I like to always combine things with, you know, interesting textures, something that kind of cuts the sweetness a little bit, and herbs. I love using herbs a lot too. Yeah, see, that looks great, just like that. Now just take that handful and crop them short.
So I'm going to cut them to about here.
Exactly, like right above your fingers there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, this always gets me. I feel like I'm going to cut them too short, but let's go. Is there a flower you really dislike?
Not really, because I use kind of everything in my flower flashes. I would say like that pink stargazer lily that it's like bright pink and white, and it's like you don't even see them anymore. But I don't know, they're kind of ugly and they smell bad. I'm not a huge calla lily fan. I don't, you know, I think orchids are a little overrated because they become so expected. But it's all in the application. The minute I say I dislike something, tomorrow I'm going to use it. So there you go. It's looking good. Now take your cabbage and start spearing in some of that.
Okay. Where's all my clean cabbage? Ah, here we go. Okay, so now my cabbage is so big.
That is like, it looks like it just came straight from the farm. It may, yeah, it may be a little robust for that small cup, but you know, what the hell, give it a try.
Yeah. I can find, yeah, I have this small one, which is beautiful.
Yeah, just, you know, just a little few pieces to get it, that texture.
So.
Exactly, and do like 3 more.
Should I cut it down lower?
I think you should cut it a little bit lower. Now remember, your tulips are also going to grow, so this arrangement's going to look completely different tomorrow.
Yeah, what's great about the kale is you can design your own kale. Just keep trimming it up, and you have like,
who
you
knew
make
you
it
could
as
be
short as you want.
manicuring kale. So now those little bits, you can feed them to your kids. There's all that stuff you're trimming off.
Okay, so I can trim them and do
that's
them
better. So
all
you
around.
can add some cabbage, and then you can just fill in with a few more tulips around the top.
Okay. I mean, this is like very therapeutic. It's very calming to smell the tulips, to smell the vegetables.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to touch. It's nice to be, you know, touch flowers and have all the kind of senses involved. I'm not really a cook, so this is like, you know, this doing flowers does it for me.
Well, everybody must invite you over to their house for dinner because they're going to be like, he's going to bring the most amazing arrangement over here.
Yeah, or I go over and they have ordered the flower flash box and they hand it to me and say, here, make a centerpiece.
Okay, I'm going to keep going around and around.
There you go.
This is like such a good idea to do when you're going to someone's house actually for dinner instead of bringing a candle or something else to do your own flower arrangement. I think it's like so personal.
Yeah, the other thing too is like if you want to give something away, you don't want to do it. You know, you don't want to give. You don't have a base, or you could clean your tulips like I showed you, and then take like 3 or 4 stems of this cabbage and just almost do a hand tie. You know, you could do this whole thing and tie it with a ribbon or something and hand it off like this, and then they can just they can drop it in their own container.
Yeah. And so what do you suggest in transporting? If you're going to do it that way, you're saying what you would say is to let the tulips or let the whatever flowers drink all day long so that you just wrap them in like a paper or something?
Then you just wrap them in paper. Then when you hand them off, you know, ideally the thing is, rule of thumb, every time you do a transaction with flowers, you just need to give it a fresh cut. So if it's out of water for more than, you know, 3 or 4 minutes, I mean, 3 or 4 minutes is okay, not ideal, really depends on the temperature, but anytime after 10 minutes, give it a fresh cut. Yeah, that cabbage looks great. I love how it's like, in those tulips, as they open up, in 2 days, like take a picture of it and send it to me because it's gonna be amazing. The only thing I'd say is take a few more tulips and now add them to the center, to the top. You just add some individual stems.
This is where I always mess up because after you've already trimmed the flowers, now you gotta eyeball it to make sure that it's the same measurement as the other ones. Okay, I'll just add like 2 more, and then let's see. Does anybody have any question? Oh, he's gone again. Oh no. This is like major difficulties today. Let's see. He'll be back on. So does anybody have any questions? I feel like he has so many tricks. Next time you're having a dinner party, everybody's going to be so like obsessed with entertaining, and I feel like I'm going to like do my table so much more elaborate now. Okay, so I've added more. Here we go. Of course, this is going to look better, but I'll keep trying. This is so cute. All right, so we've got one down. I am going to, yes, somebody just asked if you can use cheaper vodka. Absolutely. I would say use the cheapest you can. I mean, it's just the alcohol in there that needs to kill the germs. I was just using this one because this is what I have at hand. And by the time I'm done with all of these arrangements, they're basically gonna have none. Okay, so now I'm gonna work on a pink. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now I'm gonna work on a pink one and with the kale in a totally different vessel. So let's see. So I'm gonna trim. Let's see. So anybody else who has any questions, once he gets on, we will definitely answer. Let's see. Is my kale facing the right way? I think so. I think it's a matter of like whichever way you want it to face. I want to see the purple next to the tulips. So you don't want to, I mean, I guess if you want to show the back of the kale. If this is sitting on a table or sitting on your vanity or your desk, I kind of want to see the purple and the green. Okay. So I'm going to keep going with this. Lewis, are you there? Maybe he couldn't get back on. Okay, we're going to wait like just 2 more minutes to see if he's there. And hopefully, let's see. Can you use vodka for plants? Oh my gosh, we have to ask him that. That's a really good question because I had like major problems with a jade plant and I was like trying everything to bring this back alive. Okay, so I'm gonna use this vintage vase that was my grandmother's and I'm gonna put these in there. Or should I choose a different one? What do you guys want to see? Something shorter or something bigger? I also have this one. Maybe I should do this one. Yes, okay. I'm gonna do this one because then we could add a lot of kale to it. Water, and then my 7-Up. Is kale good to use for summer weddings? Oh my God, we need Lewis back on here because he would be better to answer. I think if you're doing like a wedding that's like kind of farm style, I think it would look cute, or in a garden. You know, while he was on here, it's like, it's crazy. If you know how to execute something, you can literally use anything in these arrangements. I'm going to get much more creative when working on these. So the base is this big. I need to trim a good like 4 inches off of here. Okay. This is always tricky for me because I feel like I cut them at all different sizes. So okay, so this one he's going to tell me, I'm sure he's going to say we need more tulips, but it's kind of like pretty. Definitely needs kale. So I'm going to clean a bunch of kale and more pink. My God, I need more direction. Where are you, Lewis? Let's see. Ah. Okay, so I'm going to add some more pink ones. And then I'm gonna trim a ton of kale, and we're gonna do one that's like even bushier. Oops, that one just broke. So that's another question I want to ask him. When you start having like ones that you broke like super short, what's something cool you can do with those? I can't. So let's see. All right, so I'm going to add these. And where's my trimmer? So another thing you can do is take your other one that you've already snipped and kind of like bring it there for a guide. And then, okay, let's see. I cannot look at my text because I am so far away. So I'm going to keep going. Can you call her? Okay. So let's see. Anybody else has any other questions? All right, I'm gonna trim this one right here. The other thing I know for myself is when I like rush this, this is getting nice, little by little, and then I'm gonna add the kale. And now let's trim the kale. So much of this, but now because I have so much room in here, I feel like I can fill it up with the kale. So now let's cut her. This is like so therapeutic, I have to say. I'm like into this. Something so different to do. And I think like having them at all different, you know, thicknesses is nice also. Okay, so just to give you an idea, I'm gonna add these. So I would put, so like somebody said, are you using the kale on the wrong side? I personally like the front facing outward. So I'm gonna keep putting it in there like this, but it's too long. So I'm gonna trim her up again. But like he said, it's better to go cut them slow instead of for them to be too short because then they just don't work. And I have been down that road before. Okay, this seems good. So I'm gonna keep adding. Let's go. And then you want to create that stem, which I think is such a good idea. I would have never thought about that. I would have been stuffing all these leaves inside there. And it would have gotten so bulky. Okay, let's see. Where is Lewis? Does anybody have any information? This is one. Okay, so Lewis's phone died. This sounds like something that would happen to me. Okay, so we can either continue and we could wait for him to come back on, or I can log back on. What do you guys think? What is more convenient? He's very sorry. All right, so I'm just gonna keep, I mean, I have so many arrangements to do, so I'm just gonna keep cutting, and then when he gets back on, he can kind of like grade all of my arrangements. Okay, so he's not coming back on. Okay, so his phone died. He's not coming back on. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to finish these, and then we will log off, and we will see this. Okay. 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 So they want me to continue. All right, so I'm going to keep going. So it's so funny. Somebody said, is your kale backwards? Like, I want to have it all facing this way, but for some reason, this piece, like, doesn't want to sit nicely. So actually, I'm going to do this one backwards. So I'm going to do this arrangement by myself, and I'm going to send Louis an email and send him a photo and see what he thinks of my arrangement. This one is kind of like, I really like when you go and pick out any type of kale, there's some that's more leafy. I think the ones that are really coarse are much better. They have more purple in them, like this one. This one seems like perfect for an arrangement. I'm gonna trim her up. Okay, so I'm going to add some more in here. Okay. Okay. Happy. So you guys think the flowers look great. I'm such a novice, but he gave such good tips that I feel like I can keep going. He took the training wheels off and left me going by myself. Okay. Cleaning up that stem. This one is definitely going to be a challenge because I have to fill that up, and the flowers are like, they need to get like compacted. So, and I have such an amount of green in front of me, but I want to bring this one over here so that I can show you guys how I'm actually doing this one. Okay. So here's this one. Let's move. All right. So I'm going to add this up. And then I'm going to do this one. And so what I'm doing, I'll show you a little bit closer, is I am creating a stem out of this. See, this is like really filling it up. But I want to keep all the kale on the outside, so I've got way more to keep building in. But like he said, once the tulips start growing, they start changing so much, they start changing shape that this is going to look totally different tomorrow. Okay, here's that one's too small. Okay. I thought I had so much kale, and I'm like going all through this. Oh, this is a great piece. I love when it's like a little bit coarse. Okay. Let's put her here. More tulips. I'm gonna just make sure that my whole perimeter has got kale, and then I'm gonna add more tulips. But remember, it's gonna grow tomorrow. These are all gonna open up. And we wanna be able to see kale also. So I'm just gonna arrange these a little bit, put 2 more pieces of kale, and then I'll add some more tulips. And then I think she's done. Let's see.